and I want to drop this thought before we go, because I want to give all the gentlemen a chance to kind of sit with it and think about it, is that I Hannah and I can't speak for any of it, but I know Hannah and I, when we listened to Delvin's episode, one of the reasons that we were disappointed wasn't because Delvin had this man on. It was because when he was saying the things that he was saying, nobody was pushing back against him. And I don't blame you, Ken, and I don't blame Alex, because I completely understand in the moment what was going through your heads, you know, being a guest on Delvin's show. Like, I get it. I truly, truly get it. But it is so important to do things like JV did when he is coming at anybody of that mindset. When you see them coming at somebody, do not hesitate to step in and let your voice be heard. Listen, you guys know me. I don't need no man to protect me. I probably should, because I'm 4'11", but I don't need no man to protect me. But it's not about protecting me. It's about somebody else saying to him, hey, bro, what you're saying, it's not fucking true, or it's bullshit. Or even if you don't have the stats, and I speak to anybody on this, do not be afraid to say, I don't think what you're saying is right. Let me pause this for 10 minutes so I can Google some shit. Or hold up, I have a friend who's well versed in XYZ. Let's pull them into this conversation. Because what I saw happening was, he was loud and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about. And that happens way too fucking much, where we make those assumptions because we don't want to be wrong, or we don't want to be this, or we don't want to step on somebody's toes. With the way the climate is now, we have got to stop letting these people be the loudest men in the room. And you saw how he acted when the little mixed girl pushed back at him. And then you saw how he acted when somebody like JV pushed back at him. Push back at these people. Do not be, trust me, listen, I guarantee the majority of women are not, or even whoever is not going to be like, I can't believe you jumped into the conversation. I'm willing to bet, and I don't have statistics, but I'm willing to bet somebody would say, thank you. Not because we needed a defense, but we needed somebody else to be like, what the fuck, bro?
And another example of this is not even to be like, even a big situation like this, where you're having these heated debates over Twitter, or say at your family's dinner table and you're having these debates. But the reason why, or many reasons why Crystal and I are pushing so hard on the lack of pushback, is because we're used to hearing silence all the goddamn time. So another casual, very casual example of this is if you're playing any kind of multiplayer game. Like, Crystal and I frequent Apex Legends. Unfortunately, we like it for some ungodly reason. But there was a popular TikTok that went around of a very common occurrence where she's playing Valorant with her two male friends, and they're getting on just fine. They get a male random come into their team, and the moment he hears her speak in her feminine voice, he starts being a douchebag. So naturally, she's defending herself over mic. Now, her two male friends haven't said a goddamn word in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Finally, when the match is done, she addresses the two of them like, what the fuck? Why didn't you say anything? And he's like, I thought you had it handled. I didn't know what to say. And she's like, your silence is telling. So that's why we love y'all. First of all, we love y'all. But that's why we jump so hard on this, because those examples are fucking everywhere.
All right, everybody, welcome back to this amazing discussion with an amazing panel of just normal, everyday motherfucking Americans trying to figure out what we're going to do about this gun problem in the United States. We are talking facts, common sense, dispelling myths, and just having an honest conversation, which is what we encourage everybody to do, but have an honest conversation. So we're going to lose a couple of fellas in a little bit. So I want to jump right into this conversation about guns and masculinity and how it is affecting the culture around guns. And I am, anybody can jump in and start this. Ken, I know you're going to leave in a few minutes, in JV. So let's hear from you two. How do you think, masculinity and definitions of masculinity are affecting our conversation, and why America is so obsessed with having and owning a gun?
Okay, I'm going to jump in because I don't want to try to have to follow another one of Jermaine's
right
monologues. Oh man,
you're right.
Oops, hold on. I just did something on my phone there. It's as far as masculinity with it, it seems like you can almost track it to like action movies because it's always like the guys that are like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, all them like doing all the um old action flicks with shooting everything up and all that. And they've made like parodies of it and all that. Um, I don't want to say that's the end on be all of it, but that seems to be part of the route showing like how to be a man. Oh, if you can kill 20 people with this gun, in 5 seconds, even tell you John Wick and the Bourne movies and all that. It's always male action figures, action icons, heroes doing this. So that's what you get shown. You never see them trying to um negotiate. I mean, some of the movies don't even set it up to negotiate. The only one I could think of is Liam Neeson's Taken, where he's on the phone with the person saying, "Hey, it was your one and only chance. Leave my daughter, leave her friend, get out, or else I'm coming for you." Um, which still shows a severe case of masculinity as far as like I'm going to protect what's mine, and I'm just going to try to threaten you over the phone. Um, but there's the whole like I don't know what you call it, penis enemy. People think like, oh, I got a big gun, so I must have a big, big dick and all that. So that's trying to the bigger the gun, or the opposite effect. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to make up for something, and it's just part of that, extension. I mean, I have trouble seeing it because I'm not a gun person. I don't have a gun. Don't ever plan on having it. um, And if you want to talk about my other weapons, like swords and stuff like that, it's never been about like the biggest weapons, like whatever's functional for what I have to do. Like when I was doing stage combat, it's like, okay, I need this weapon for that. I don't care about the size; it's functional. It's what I needed to do. Um, but there is a thing like just within the culture, like movies and TV shows. It's always like the guys that are coming with the guns and quick to draw, and you rarely see movies with females leads doing that. Um,
Let me ask you this then, Ken. And
honestly,
what does it mean for you to be a man or to be an American man? Like what does that mean? What does that look like for you?
it's that's the I never really thought about it too much because um I don't have the same like Alex said, like in the other podcast with Delvin's said about people leaving the house with the hoodie,
Mhm.
you know, I don't having to worry. I don't have that worry. The worst I would when I was a kid growing up, it was neighborhoods. Oh, you're from Fishtown? Oh, you're from Port Richmond? Jump them, type of thing.
Right.
But it was all like inner city, silly gang, not even gang, just neighborhood rivalry type of thing. Um, so for me, for Mary, it's like for me, it's a daily thing of just I get up, go to work, do what I need to do, come home, um, and worry about the future as far as how things are going to happen for my kids, my stepkids, for friends, like when I see news articles and news things, and try to figure out how I can do something to help to fix it. But to be honest, I don't have any power, even though according to someone else, you know, the way he said it, it was like, oh, it's the white people, so it's just us white people. We got to fix our own people. Um, no, we got to fix certain white people. um, but I don't really have the experience to the negative experiences. I don't want to say white privilege, but because there's I grew up. My dad was a cop, but I grew up in we were poor. Even though he was a cop. Um, so we had that, and then when my parents divorced, we were the only divorced family in the school we were going to and stuff. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but
you kind of are. It's not. I feel like there's a lot of you that are not running around here feeling the need to so heavily define themselves as an American man. You're just Ken, and you use your, LARPing weapons in a functional manner, and you don't feel like you need to own a gun to protect your family, yet you're still willing and able to protect your family, whatever the fuck that even means. From what are we
what,
talking about?
the only time I ever feel like I have to defend myself is I have under my beard my Thor's hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people see those symbols and automatically assume, oh, he's one of those proud boys, he's this or that, like they see the Norse symbolized because these people are grabbing and using them for their own devices. So I get constantly, I always wear it under my shirt because I want someone to say, hey, you're one of, no. It's a great shirt I saw online. It said "No Nazis in Valhalla." Yeah, that sums it up. It's like, no, I could go on so much, but there's like Odin went around the world and fathered all sorts of different people and brought in people. The Vikings traveled Russia to America and all that, and they brought people in. And to be honest, you're Norse. You're not a Viking. Viking is something they did. We're all sitting here podcasting. We're not podcastings. Yeah. It's what you do. Um, that's the only thing I ever feel like I have to defend myself in. But as far as being an American, whatever, it's just I'm just here. That in sports, I don't like sports. That's people usually tend to go, "What? You don't like sports? Are you a guy or what?"
You absolutely are. They should see you dressed up as a Viking and try to ask whether or not. I mean, but that shouldn't even be the symbol of it, to be honest. Like I feel like that's sexist too. So last question for you, Ken, and then we'll move on to JV. You say that it's interesting to me that you feel like you don't have any power because you grew up poor, and there's actually, I would encourage, because I feel like a lot of um would you say white people feel that way as well, that this white privilege doesn't kind of, I am fucking broke and I am going through it. There was a great article, I'll find it, that kind of explained it very well. And it was actually titled "White Privilege for Poor White People," to kind of understand the nuances of that. But that aside, that's just kind of an educational moment. That aside, what I say to you is, like, what would you say to someone with "he who shall not be named's" mindset? Because it's pretty rampant what they believe in and how they kind of feel about things. So you are also a father. You are also outraged with the gun violence in this country. So, what would you say to somebody like him that thinks the solution to these problems is, this hard definition of what a man is?
Men come in all sorts of flavors, just generational. You could see, like, perfect example, Dick Van Dyke, dancer, singer, laid on his feet, the whole 9 yards. Back then, he was a man. Yeah, people were like, "That's a guy. He could do all this stuff. It's great." You do that today, people are like, "Oh, the insert derogatory term here." Yeah, we all know which one. I'm not going to say because I don't feel comfortable saying it. I don't like saying it. I don't. Yeah, I don't like saying those words. And that would be number one. It's like, you can't say who's manly, who's not, because of what they do or don't like. Second of all, if they're saying something bad about race, especially like right in front of me or something like that, it's like, hey, that's one, not cool, and address it as I can right there. And especially if it's like about one of my friends, I'm a protective person. So if someone's doing something against one of my friends, especially if they're my friends right there, I want to say something. Contrary to my last behavior on another podcast, but
it's okay.
No. Yeah, I mean, it just has to be. I'd like to say, let me put it this way. I would like to say that the thoughts in my head are that I would go in and correct them and say things But when the rubber hits the ground, you never know, because you don't know, like, the situation. Like, my kids might be there, so I don't want to start an argument in front of the kids. I might not have, you know, they may have people with them that, like, it's one of those things. Like, I don't know how many people will take them to kick my ass, but I know how many they were willing to use.
Mm-hmm.
It's a situational thing. What I would say or do, if it was one-on-one, I would say something 100%, because it's like, I'm not worried about someone going after me like that. Because a lot of these people, I say it like that because, not to beat chest beat and all that, but a lot of these people, when presented with their facts, or let me rephrase that, the facts against their facts, react in a inordinate physical violence, or do it in such a way that almost makes you take the first swing, because they, like, bump into you and get in your face, and they trigger, so it's like you're the one that starts it when you're not. But again, I'm not worried about that part because too much, because I'm just not, big guy.
Right.
And know how to handle myself. But, like, for the person there, I mean, I seriously think that if you were one-on-one across the table from him, having some conversation, calling that person out on their BS, I would not be surprised if they stood up, pushed the chair, flipped the table at you, did something to provoke a physical response back. And you say, "Oh, well, I got up and I hit you through the table by accident." No, you threw the table, type of thing.
Right.
Again, it's just reaction would have to depend on the situation, because most of those people are going to be getting right in your face, and arguing back and pushing it, like getting right nose to nose with you.
Right.
You see it when you go and watch demonstrations. One side will be all peaceful, just saying their stuff, and the other side's the one they're getting up, crossing the barriers, getting right up in their face, trying to grab the pride flags and throw them on the ground, trying to grab the signs, throwing them on the ground, try to, whatever. And they get, like, you know, to the point where if the person breathes, they're going to bump into them and they go, "Okay, assault."
Right.
They're almost, if not doing the primary violence, they're trying to make it secondary violence, by forcing you to do it
Yeah.
by accident.
We've talked a lot about tonight, what we don't want to see. And I feel very strongly that kind of one of many reasons the country is the way it is because we have allowed for centuries somebody else to tell us this is how things are. And we accept that. There's some moments in history where we fought and fought and fought to change it, but you hear people now on just so many topics, well, that's just the way it is. This is just the way it is. I don't believe that. I hate that saying. There's no bigger pet peeve of mine. But I want to ask you if Ken makes the laws, what, you don't even have to get very technical, but just what is the type of world that you want to live in? What do you want your kids to grow up in? What does it look like? Do you know? Have you even ever thought about
I want it so that I don't care if your skin color is paisley or plaid, if you're got a dime in your pocket or a billion in your pocket, that all the laws are going to treat everybody the same. That if you're president, let me one couple caveats to that. If you're someone that's in charge, like the president or the senator or a congressman, someone that's supposed to be making these laws, doing the laws, if you get caught doing something, breaking those laws, you should get penalized twice as hard, because you're supposed to be the person, the example of this. So, but as far as after that, everybody gets treated the same. If you're pink with purple polka dots and you stick up a place with a gun, you get the same lawyer, you get the same judge, you get the same sentencing. Um, let's do it mask singer style. Everybody wears a mask and outfit, and that's,
right?
can't tell who they are. Just go by the facts of the situation. That's what I would like. Everybody be treated equal. Um, Now there's always the thing of equal and what's the other word?
Unequal?
No, there's I saw a thing about before saying like people being treated equal was like it was a really cool comic with a fence showing like everybody getting treated equal, but someone's shorter. Thank you, thank you. Yeah. You know, a balance between those two, because if you're poor, you're not going to have the same amount of money to have that good lawyer. But I think like they should, like all the lawyers should be, if you have a public defender, like if you're a regular lawyer, you should be forced to do pro bono work for people that are poor too, and give them the same level of representation. Because you can't tell a lawyer just to work free for everybody, because that's not fair to the lawyer. But you tell them, hey, you're doing this, you have to do so many quote unquote pro bono credits.
What does gun control in Ken's world look like for you?
Get rid of any of these high-powered guns that are not meant for hunting. Anything above a hunting level, if you could show that's going to ruin the meat more than, take the life of the animal, it's not hunting. Okay. As I said earlier, I have a problem with people that do sports hunting and they do it like from a mile away, shooting from a thing, it's tree stand. That's not sports. That's another whole story altogether. If you need it for self-defense at home, okay, you have it at home in a locked case. The safe is registered. The gun is registered. If it gets out somehow, like it's a fingerprint or a passcode, and someone knows your passcode and gets in and uses your gun, well, that's your ass. You should have kept it safer. Your kids get in because you left your gun on you get drunk and you leave the cleaning supplies and the gun on the kitchen table and something happens. Again, that's your ass because you're the one that did it. The end all stopgap would be whoever's the owner. I don't think people need 30, 40 rifles, shotguns, and there's no need for that unless you're a collector, and then you take the firing pins out and you have the collection item, so it's a collector's item, so it's like a historic accurate gun. Like someone said, oh, this was Billy the Kid's gun, I want to have it. That's okay, fine. Display gun in a display case that's locked like a safe with the firing pins out or the flints out, whatever it is that is the triggering mechanism on it. But as far as functional modern guns, why does someone need 10 handguns to protect their house? That's just setting you up for 10 points of failure in your house for someone else to get the gun.
Right.
You could do hunting. You have your hunting license tied to the gun you're going to use too. So you're going to hunt for a duck. Okay, here's my duck gun. The license is attached to my duck gun, which is registered to me. Deer hunting, same thing. I mean, would it be extremely hard to do all this? Yes. But if I could like wave a magic wand, bippity boppity, boop, there we go. And that way everybody's accountable for the items they have. And get rid of anything that's basically a pure destructive power, and only the military would need it. Well, if I had my say, I wouldn't even want a military to be world peace, so you wouldn't have that aspect.
I like your world, Ken.
Except for if the aliens come, then we need some guns to take them out. Yeah, but that's another story.
Everybody always assumes the aliens are mad, man. That's messed up.
What if Mac and Me come? You gonna shoot Mac and Me?
Yeah,
I've never seen it.
E.T., man.
If Mac and Me comes, I'm going to be busy having histrionic laughing on the ground.
I've actually never seen that movie.
Well, see, now you got to. Now you got.
I got it after my list.
Shoot Alf.
Alf, yeah. I got two
Alf
cats.
comes.
It just
let that hammer fly.
I just pictured like
I like Alf. I like Alf, but he's got a problem, and I cannot condone his cat eating.
I was going to say, if you like Alf, don't go on YouTube and look up the outtakes of that show.
Oh, no.
You are going to be upset.
It would be.
Thanks, Ray.
It would be so American. It would be so American of the giant UFO landing. Hello, we've come with a solution for your gun violence. Shoot them all.
Absolutely, that.
Yeah, that's that.
Anyway,
there's an old Far Side cartoon with that. Like they showed the intergalactic incident that aliens came down the thing and their head was shaped like a hand, and they're like high-fived them.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, we cannot be trusted. The very eloquent JV, sir. What do you have to say about masculinity and gun culture?
I think as far as masculinity within and of itself, for me, the idea of that has been challenged, I think, as I've gotten older, as to what I think it conveys. I think hypermasculinity is definitely tied in to guns. It's this idea that being a man means to somehow prove yourself, and to prove yourself through the level of violence that you're willing to commit against somebody who may be perpetrating violence against you. So I think, like Ken said, that sort of is ingrained. I mean, look at our heroes, right? Or the people that we find infamous. Billy the Kid. Al Capone was known for shooting guns, but St. Valentine's Day Massacre. I love this movie, The Godfather, and The Godfather 2. I love Menace to Society. I love John Wick. I love The Terminator. There is a fascination and fixation with masculinity through violence. Yeah. And I think that is a big part of the gun culture. Again, because it's the Second Amendment. It means something to protect your home, to protect your country, to protect the ones that you love, and to do that by any means necessary, even if those means are deadly. And so I think it's essential that we continue to have conversations about it, because of the destructive nature of what being in proximity to a gun when you're an angry man, angry young man, what that does to you. I think about the shooting at the University of California at Santa Barbara. And that young man was an incel. And that has a lot to do with masculinity, right? This I don't get to have sex with who I want to have sex with. I'm involuntarily celibate. I am owed this thing. Ultimately, his decision was to kill women by using a gun. I think those things are married together. And I don't know how we start to pry that apart, but I think the first part is men really taking a look at themselves and having a dialogue with yourself about what it means to you to be a man. What does that mean to you? And how those ideas that you have of what it means to be a man were influenced by things that you saw on TV, by the way that your father or your grandfather acted, by what society, especially in America, expects a man to be. Those things have to be interrogated. And that's, outside of the gun violence part, that's something that I'm working on all the time. Trying to figure that out. And I think I've gained some progress, but there's still a lot to learn, and we men have to hold each other accountable, but that's also some accountability for yourself. That's a journey that you have to go on. You have to be okay with being like, hey, the ways that I thought the ways in which I thought I am a man and how to be a man aren't necessarily what they really are. So if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It really, really does. JB, how hard was that? How hard has that journey been for you? Because I think it's really hard to think one way your entire life and then be told that you're wrong. Like we see, the pushback against that. So just how hard was that for you?
There was like some particularly difficult moments, right? When Me Too happened, the actual movement that Tarrah Burke started. Just want to be really clear. It was Tarrah Burke, a Black woman, that started that movement. When that happened, I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't go back to my interactions with women. And the expectation I think that I had of myself of this is what you do, especially specifically we're talking about cis men, straight cis men. There were things that even I had to go back and be like, oh shit, that was harassment. That was that was a pressure that I was applying, right? Those are hard things to look at, like very hard things. I'll be frank. Like I apologize to my wife because there were times where I had learned, hey, we're supposed to have sex and I'm supposed to like pressure you, but if you're a good guy, it's not pressure, right? It's just, well, I'm supposed to keep trying and trying and trying until it happens. Okay. But that in itself is a form of coercion, right? So that's a really hard person to look at in the mirror and be like, oh shit, I did that. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't matter. And this is the other part of it. It doesn't matter that that's what I was taught to do. To be clear, these are things that men are taught to do. They're taught to think that these things are okay. And even to a certain degree, women are taught to accept them as just regular practice, right? What you have to do is you have to accept that you were still wrong about it. It doesn't matter that you were taught to do it. Now you know, now you've been educated. You're no longer ignorant. And so there's two things that you have to do. You have to take accountability for that. You have to, I think, to me, it's important to apologize to people that you may have hurt. In some circumstances, that person doesn't even think you did anything wrong, but you know better, even if they don't. So you have to do that. And I think you have to make an effort to hold other men accountable when you see it, to try to really try to dismantle toxic masculinity. Like I know it gets to be a word for people who are older than us that they're like, oh my gosh, toxic masculinity, everything's toxic. It is toxic. It is toxic. And it's not just toxic in the way of how you as a man affect the world around you. It's how you affect yourself. It's what you look at yourself internally. So you have to do those things. You have to come to grips with like, yeah, you were a fucking lame ass guy. And maybe you weren't trying to be a bad guy, but you did fuck shit. You did fuck boy shit. And you have to somehow own up to that, accept it, and then say, okay, what am I going to do to be better? If you don't do that, then the cycle just continues and you're never going to be in a position to be able to tell another man like, hey, what you're doing, that's not cool. And also let me tell you why it's not cool and how we can do better. That's difficult. Like that's just difficult to do, but I mean, It's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. You have to be your own worst critic. You have to be willing to be like, yeah, that wasn't great. You know, the way I did that, or the way I said that, or the way I didn't do something when something happened, that wasn't great. And I got to change that. And I have to accept that and examine it. So I think for me, that's been part of the journey, and also just redefining what masculinity is, right? What it means to be a man. You asked that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I think since I've had London, what does it mean to be a good person? That's the question. It's not what it means to be a man. I can't tell you what it means to be a man. I don't know, because that looks different. You know, every year, every day, every month, I think I become aware that like there's no one way to be anything, and there's certainly not one way to be a red-blooded American male. The reality is, I watch sports. I love football. I love boxing. Guess what? I don't give a fuck about cars. I can't fix one. I don't fix things in my own house. It's what my wife does. I don't have the ability to do that. I just accept it. There are certain things that, like, oh, traditional man, this is what you do. And then there are certain things like, I don't kill cockroaches in this house. That's Lisa's job. I'm scared. Like, I don't do that.
I love that.
It's phenomenal.
You know, like,
but you know,
like,
it's wonderful to see, because like Ken's like, I don't give a fuck about sports, and you're like, I love sports. And if we're just,
right.
you know, like, how does that define, you know?
I mean,
you know?
that's whether you like sports or not is just something you like. I don't think you're less manly because you like sports.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're less manly if you're a trans man. I don't think you're less manly if you're a man who likes to fuck other men. I don't think you're less manly if you dress in drag. I don't know what, you know, like, those are just,
right.
Those ultimately, we hope, are just things. Who I'm attracted to, what I like to do, what my favorite activities are. Hopefully those are all just things, and those are all legitimate ways to be men, in my personal opinion. Like, I know that that's controversial for some people, but like, those are ways to be men. And then, instead of just focusing on being a good man, just try to be a good human being. Like, focus on just being a good human being, regardless of what gender you fall into, regardless of where you are on the spectrum of identity. Focus on being a good person, and eventually, if there is such thing as being a good man, then eventually you'll get there, I assume, if that's possible.
I love that so much. JB,
See, and this is why I didn't want to go second.
I know,
follow
right?
up on, yeah.
Every time he talks, I'm like, that's it, we're done. Podcast over. JB, what does gun control look like in your world?
In my world, I try to be a realist as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And in my world, gun control looks like the AR-15 platform not being available for sale.
Mm-hmm.
Acknowledging the fact that we are never going to get all the guns back. This country has too many guns. And by the way, people who have legitimate reasons to have guns, people who have lots of land, people who use their guns in a way that is beneficial to their life in a very practical and real way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So AR-15s, gone. Assault style weapons, bump stocks, gone. A buyback. Say, hey, you know what? If we're going to take these weapons, if we're going to ask you to not have these weapons in your house, then we can't just act like we weren't part of the problem by allowing them to be sold.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to buy your guns back at the current price they are today. So if you bought your AR-15 in 1997 and it's appreciated in value, then that's what you get for it, right? We do that. People will take it, especially in these times where there's a lot of economic uncertainty. As far as handguns, shotguns, the first thing that we do, to me, is things that are pretty much statistically, you can look this up, several polls, even you can go to Fox News and you'll see this. You go to Newsmax, which is like the most right-wing place, and you will see these polls. Most people agree on universal background checks. Something very, very simple. Universal background check. And we just have a few things on there. If you've been convicted of a domestic violence felony or misdemeanor, you do not get to have a gun. Because the statistics say that if you've committed domestic violence once, you will probably do it again. If you are in proximity to a firearm, that situation will escalate. My dad used to say those were the most dangerous calls that he went on was domestic violence calls. So make it very easy. If you've committed any sort of domestic violence, you don't get a gun. If you're on a no-fly list, you don't get a gun. If we can't trust you to be in the air, then we can't trust you to have a gun. You don't get to buy a gun immediately. You don't get to use loopholes, go to gun shows, buy guns. There is a background check and a proper amount of time. And you figure out what that amount of time is. And we just simply make it, we make the bar for getting a gun the same or higher as we do for getting a driver's license. The reason that we have a driver's license system, and the reason why you have to get a permit and you have to take classes and you have to be certified, is because driving around a 3,000-pound machine that can do 100 miles per hour is inherently dangerous if you don't know what you're doing or if you're not in the right mindset. We look at cars as weapons. We should treat guns as what they are, weapons. Educate. I think really get to the nitty-gritty of what the Second Amendment is and the reality that you're not going to take on the strongest military force in the world with your pew-pew. That's not going to happen. I don't care how many AR-15s you have. You don't have artillery. You don't have smart bombs. You don't have drones. God knows how close we are to having an actual tyrant back in office. So I can appreciate people's fear of the government. You should have a healthy fear of your government. Your government should also have a healthy fear of you. But there's a reality that we have to discuss, that I'll go ahead and say his name. If Trump gets in office and for some reason he is able to coerce the United States military into acting as his own private force, you are not going to be able to stop that. You're not going to be able to stop that at even in your neighborhood generally, right? You could do all the guerrilla fighting tactics. The Revolutionary War was 200 years ago, when you had to actually put lead balls into a gun and light your gunpowder to get it to fire. They have better weapons than the M16 now. Bander just said they're retiring that platform. They're retiring that platform because they have more effective weapons than they will let you as the general public has. If you don't have that, you can't understand that reality. You're living in outer space. If they'll let you have the AR-15, I promise you guys, they have bigger guns, faster guns, and more training. So really have to have a conversation about that and educate people like the person who was on Delvin's podcast. We've amended things. Oh my gosh, did you know that? Like the Bill of Rights, it's not like just this thing in the Constitution. We made amendments to it. That's how you and I are here talking right now, right? we made amendments to it. We're no longer 3/5 of a human being.
Right.
So that thing can change, and that is essential. Yeah, it has to. It's essential to democracy. It's essential to our republic. Ultimately, gun control looks like to me is we are a country that has a lot of guns. We're not going to get rid of all of them, but let's do common sense things that protect all of us. If your identity is wrapped up in your AR-15, maybe there's nothing that can be done for you. But we shouldn't have to pay the price because you're not willing to give up a weapon that is purely designed to kill. Because we all enter into a social contract. Like the social contract, hopefully, is that we all try to take care of each other. We make it every day. Every day you wake up, every day you go to work, you go to school, you go to the grocery store, you say, excuse me, you try to go around people, you try not to cut people off. Sometimes people break the contract, but for the most part, we make a contract that we're all going to be cool to each other. Part of the social contract that we're asking for now, which is fair, is we don't need killing machines owned by regular Americans that can be taken advantage of by people who have poor and bad intentions. So that's what gun control looks like to me. I think we can get there. It's a matter of pushing your local politicians, pushing Democrats, pushing Republicans. Both parties have their hands in buckets of money from the NRA and other gun lobbies. Call them out when you see them. Vote in your local elections. They're more important than the presidential election. Vote in your local elections. Change your local laws. Get behind people who actually have a common sense message. And it doesn't matter if they're Republican. It doesn't matter if they're Democrat. If they have a common sense message behind things like gun control, then support them in the laws they make and hold them to account. If they can't do it, then vote their ass out. Primary them. Those are the things that we have to do. If we can do that, we can get to a place where we can still have this weird, admittedly perverse relationship with guns and still be in a place where we all feel safe to do the things that we like to do.
I love that. I love that. Delvin, what about you?
In terms of masculinity?
Yeah, start with masculinity. Start with that man shit.
I think we live in a time where masculinity, it always has been, it's fluid. You can't just really describe it. It's based on the person, what you're going through. Like, who am I to tell Alex about his masculinity? Who is he to tell me about my masculinity? I think it all boils down to being a good person and doing what's right and kind of just being justifiable in your goodness and trying to do the right things. I say this because this is a sensitive subject for me, because growing up and even now, I know Alex experienced it on my show, but people question my masculinity because I don't do certain things, because I don't. It's a wild thing to say that, but yeah, people question my masculinity because I'm not a certain way. I'm not the type who yells and gets hyped up and screams at people and stuff like that. I'm more of a person who am controlled with my anger and control my things. I put things out there. I'm open. I can have a sensible conversation with a person and understand things. I like therapy. I think therapy is very important for men and women and people in general. People should get therapy. I think that is something that is often overlooked. Men, we need therapy. We need help. Too many things are happening to us that we're allowing to happen because they tell us that it's not masculine to say you need help. But we do. We need to have places that we can talk and speak to each other and have conversations about needing help and about everything that we go through, because we go through a lot in this world. And I think that people just kind of brush over that and tell us, like, hey, you got to be strong. No, you don't have to be strong. You don't have to be strong for everything. You have to be able to open up. You have to be able to express your feelings and express what's going on with you. And it's too often I hear, oh, you can't do that. That's not manly. You can't do this. That's not manly. No. Who are you to define what manliness and manhood is? You know, and that's kind of the problem that we have with society today. Too many people who shouldn't be defining what manhood is and what being a man is trying to define it for us. When truthfully speaking, we should be defining that for ourselves. What makes us who we are. And that's not being a man, that's not being a woman, that's just in general. Who we are is who we are. And no one should tell us who we are, whether it's the government, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends. You know who you are. And I think that's the most masculine thing you can do, honestly. Like, as a man, as a woman, whoever you are, knowing who you are is one of the most important things you can do in your life and know in your life. And I think we're at a funny point in time in history where too many outside forces are trying to tell us who we are and what we can be. Like, I look on Twitter and social media all the time, and they're telling you, well, if you do this and you do that, you're not a man. If you do this, you're not a woman. If you do this, why do we listen to these people? Like, we should not be paying these people any attention whatsoever. But we feed into that, and we feed into these type of bullshit standards that other people set for us when they don't live our lives. They don't walk in our shoes. They don't deal with our problems. They don't do our stress. They don't know what we love and who we love. And it's kind of a frustrating thing because it's like people are trying to put on an image for other people. When in the day, the only person you have to put on an image for is yourself. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and be proud of who you are. And I think people are kind of getting away from that in a sense because everything is becoming about what everybody else thinks of us. And I appreciate that now I see so many people being genuinely who they are. You know, and I think that's a very important thing. Like, you know, like when I was growing up, there was a lot of people I grew up with. I had gay family members who wouldn't come out because they were scared. And now, as I'm older, I see those family members openly and happily gay in their relationships. I think that's important. I think it's important that we highlight people and let people live their life. Too often, we see people trying to hide who they are, and in some cases, hiding behind guns. And I think that's why some of these problems that we have today, because people are going through things. Every time we have one of these mass shootings that are terrible, that are awful, we talk about the guns. We talk about how maybe add more guns, take away guns. But we don't get to the root of the problem. Why these kids are doing these things? Why do we keep getting these young people looking for guns and shooting up schools and killing their own classmates? Why aren't these kids getting the help that they need? You know, and I feel like at some point in time, not necessarily us, but society is failing these kids and not giving them the help that they need to move forward. And it's sad because every time one of these things happen, these mass shootings happen and kids get hurt, we don't look within and say, you know what, how can we prevent this? And I think that's one of the most important things we need to realize. Yes, we can get rid of the guns, we can get rid of everything we can get rid of, but how do we prevent these kids from doing that? I think counseling, making mental health, normalizing that, I think is a very important step to that.
Absolutely.
Now, in terms of the second question about what would I do in a world that I can control in terms of gun control and stuff like that, I think that is very important to be realistic, but also for people in society to realize that guns are not fucking toys. And I think when it comes to the Second Amendment and everything like that, and the people who make those arguments, they don't take guns serious enough. We need to go back and put in value on people's lives and the fact that a gun can kill. I think there needs to be more restrictions on that. How far you want to go with those restrictions, I don't know. It's something that we have to figure out as a society and company, as a country together. But at the same time, as I'm looking at this world right now, they're making so many decisions on women's bodies. They're making decisions on voting. They're making everything else harder, but in fact going out their way to make getting guns and access to guns easier. Why is that, I ask myself? Why is this a thing that's happening? Why are you trying to control every other aspect of our lives? But when it comes to guns, you're like, nah, you can have that. That is a very troubling standard that we're setting in our society. And I think we need to really take a good look at ourselves and do something about it. Like stricter gun laws is a start. I think therapy and counseling for people, normalizing that is another aspect that we need to kind of look into as a country, because frankly speaking, I know in Black homes, that's kind of been looked down on a lot, you know. We need it. Yeah. People go through trauma all the time, you know. All of us expressed different versions of trauma on this show that we've experienced, whether it's firsthand or secondhand or things like that. But the fact that that gets kind of ignored with these type of conversations tells us even more reason why we need to have that. We need to have talks about mental health and why it's important to protect our mental health and protect others who may be going through mental health crisis and things like that. And I think, you know, when we see these situations with these school shootings in particular, the fact that they are doing this with the full intention of this is going to be my last stand, I think we need to take a deep, long, hard look at that and say, why does this keep happening? Why does this kid want to just end it like this?
Right.
Because, you know, ending your life is ending your life, no matter what way it goes. And if you're like 16, 17, and you're willing to end your life and take others with you, there is something wrong with that scenario that we don't look enough into.
Correct.
And I think that's something that, whether you're pro-gun or anti-gun, we all should be able to agree on that we need to figure out why this keeps happening as a country as a whole. Why there were excellent points brought up in this show, including the fact that, hey, other countries don't have this problem. And people can make up any excuse they want to. Oh, this factors in, this factors in. But it doesn't change the fact that other countries don't have this problem. Right. So we have to get down to the brass tacks of, hey, if they're not having this problem, how come we're not having it? And what can we take from these countries to bring to here? So maybe we won't get rid of the problem completely, but we can minimize it as much as we can.
Absolutely.
I think that's kind of just the main thing about it. You know, it's a lot. And it's not going to be easy. Now, I don't think one conversation is going to solve everything, and we're not going to change the world with that. But I think if we keep having these conversations and we keep arming each other with knowledge,
yes,
and going forth and passing that knowledge on, we may not change this generation, but we can change the next generation. And I think that's what we need to look forward to now. Like, we have people out there who are going to be set in their ways, and they're going to do stupid and toxic things and say those type of things that they shouldn't be saying. But how can we stop their generation, their offspring, from doing the same thing and following the same path that they follow? And I think there is hope. Because I know people think in these times, because these times have been rough, that there's no hope. There's a lot of hope. Because when I look at this generation that's coming up, they are more open to a lot of things that my generation wasn't. Mm-hmm. And the generation before me definitely wasn't. And that alone gives me a lot of hope, knowing that, hey, this generation is more open to a lot of things, whether it's, hey, we don't care if you're gay, bi, trans, you're cool with us. Just be you. Live your life.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
I love the fact that this generation is so open and like, hey, We don't give a fuck what you do. Just live your life and be you.
It's a beautiful thing to see.
All the people you see complaining about these type of things are old ass people. I'm gonna keep it 100. And these old people who are making the laws for these young people are holding us back.
Mm-hmm.
So once we start getting that old guard out, I think a lot of this stuff is going to change. As long as we don't carry those old traditions on, we have to kind of
break the cycle.
In it there.
Yeah. I love what you said. So I will link the article as well, statistics again. When it comes to gun deaths among children, it's a very depressing thing. For white children, overwhelmingly it's suicide. For Black children, it's homicide.
Mm-hmm.
Something is broken. Something is depressingly broken. And it's a reflection on so many other issues. But you're absolutely right. We're letting a whole lot of kids die because a bunch of men have trauma that they haven't dealt with.
Yes.
And we're gonna get to you, Hannah and Vander as well. And don't worry, Alice, I'm gonna get to you because I know you have a lot to say on masculinity. So we'll get to everybody. But if you're gonna be real about this conversation, then I want people to just come out and say, that if you are just taking this stance about nothing should be done, then just say that your fear overrides the lives of children. Because that's what we've said. And you need to be really honest and sit with yourself about that. You want this gun because you're afraid of Black people or whoever it is that you're afraid of, and you don't care if kids die. Your fear and how you feel is more important than the lives of everybody else. And you need to be so fucking and sit with yourself about that. And is that the person that you want to be? Because that's all this fucking is. Like, I feel like the majority of people that talk about, I mean, sure, there's a lot of people who want no guns, but I feel like when we look at polls and statistics, the majority of Americans are saying is just like, why can I get a gun in fucking Walmart? Like, just why is it just so fucking easy? That's the question we're asking. And you are so triggered by just the thought of somebody taking this thing away from you that you have latched onto that you don't give a fuck about anybody else. And don't pretend you don't. Don't say it's American values. Don't say it's your fucking right. Don't say any of that. Sure, that could be part of it. Sure, you could have a gender, but it's fear. Again, whatever it is that you're afraid of has become like that core issue for you, and you need to sit with that. And if you are that afraid, you need to really ask yourself if you even should have that gun. Because I don't know.
I just thought of something that you mentioned, and it just happened the other day, and it's funny. Yesterday I was with my kids hanging out, right? And we passed by a pawn shop because my son loves video games, stuff like that. He wanted to go to a pawn shop to find some old video games, stuff like that. So he went inside the pawn shop. And as soon as we walked in, my other child, my daughter, noticed there was a whole wall of guns. Like everywhere, like a whole section, full of guns. And the guy walks up, and my daughter's looking like, this is weird. Mm-hmm. Because we've been to pawn shops before, but we never seen such a large display of guns on display at a pawn shop. Usually we see other stuff, but it's like a small rack. This was literally like a gun store.
Right.
So my daughter's looking at this stuff, and I'm looking at it with her. She's like, "You gonna get a gun?" I'm like, "Absolutely not. I don't need a gun." So what I say, because if I get a gun, you know what that brings into your life? Other guns. And the pawn shop guy was like, "Hey, if you want to get a gun, you can just get a gun today." Like, he was like, "Today?" I'm like, "Today?" Like, "Yeah, you can get it right now. Just come over and get it." And the price of these guns were not expensive. Mm-hmm. When I say not expensive, I mean the cheapest one I saw maybe was $200. Mm-hmm. So think about that, $200. Just the small price of $200. Not even the price of a Nintendo Switch. You can take somebody's life. That's crazy.
Nuts. It's fucking nuts. It's like, why is it just that? Just why? Oh my God. Thank you for your thoughts, Delvin, on this. Hannah, you've been very quiet. I know you've had 1,000 tabs up. Weigh in here. Let's hear your voice.
I was just thinking to myself that a couple weeks ago when I was doing some job applications. All of those were way more complicated than trying to get a gun. And
Well, it's harder to get unemployment than to get a gun.
it was harder to fill out fucking college shit for Tulane than it is to get a gun. But I want to weigh in about like the mental health of the people who are doing the mass shootings. And I'm gonna put this caveat here because this is going on the internet and the internet's forever. Not to this extreme, but I kind of understand. Because if you're growing up in a home, right, and you're a young person, depending on how this household is, you feel incredibly smothered and you feel like you can't breathe a lot of the times. So if you're trying to develop as your own person and you're constantly being pushed down with your whole family's other values, and maybe there's like other mental illness mixed in here and there, that's going to contribute hella hard to what else is happening to you. And again, I can't like possibly understand the total extreme of killing yourself and then taking other people with you. I don't get that one because I haven't been there before. But I've thought other things that would have harmed myself because I have been so fucking low before. So I can tentatively say I get a fraction of why they do it. And that's hella depressing. And I don't mean to put like a depressing note in here, but like mental health is everything. And we need more attention on that.
And there's a big difference between mental health and mental illness. So not to confuse that we are blaming this gun problem on anybody who has like, because we know that when it comes to mental illness, those people are targeted just as much as everybody else. But this is more just
I had to put that caveat out there because like I've never wanted to shoot up a place because that's never been, I just have to put that out there. But I do understand to a fraction of why someone might want to.
Yeah.
So
Hannah, what does masculinity look like to you? Because I mean, women should absolutely be a part of this conversation because let's just be real, so fucking for real. The violence that is perpetrated against us is because of toxic masculinity. That's why I want you to walk around with 5 dogs and a bazooka to be really, I mean, if we're being really for real, I want Hannah because she walks alone all the time. And I want her to walk with a German Shepherd and I want her to pack because y'all out here crazy. Y'all is crazy.
There was a really great, I think it was a Twitter post or something, but someone was like, and no offense to y'all, but if all the men on Earth suddenly disappeared, what would the women do? And so many of them commented, I would take a walk alone at night. So it's hard for me to answer what masculinity looks like for me because I'm going to be real fucking honest here. I only got the men here in this call as a reference for good masculinity. I'm gonna be real fucking real because like my father's not bad. It's just he's Christian, Republican, all that shit that I have scratched myself away from because it doesn't fit me. It's not who I am, and some of the shit that is believed on that side is wrong. But like I can't tell you what like I want to see in masculinity because I only have you guys as a reference. So my only real answer is there shouldn't be like a hard line of masculinity. There shouldn't be a hard line of femininity. I just want you to be a good person. That's all I want from you. Especially because like we have trans people, we have non-binaries. Now we're getting into the question of what it actually is gender. So I can't actually answer what it is to be a woman or to a man because now that we are advancing in a society, we're learning a lot more about that shit. So now that question is harder.
What is, in Hannah's perfect world, what does gun control look like for you?
So I have 2 answers, kind of. So I know how this country is. We all know how this country is. I want to see, with gun control, I want to see a domino effect where it's not just gun control. So, because we know how the country is, if they ever pass a law for guns, it's going to be the barest minimum possible. And they'll leave it at that for another decade. But in the ideal world that they do pass gun restrictions of all the things that we want, everything that JV, Delvin, and everyone else has said already, if we get that wonderful bit, it can't stop there. Because even with those restrictions, it's not going to solve a lot of problems that we have. So I want to see a domino effect of, here's gun control, here's actual help for mental health, here's actual health insurance accessible to all, here's several bills and laws to help minorities, etc., etc., etc. My perfect gun-controlled world is not just gun control. So that was kind of a weird answer, but I don't know.
Not a weird answer.
My other perfect gun control scenario is literally just Star Trek. I want that fucking utopia.
So and lightsabers. I want lightsabers too, though. I want it too.
Yeah. Those are my weird answers.
No, they were not weird answers at all. This is going to totally fuck up when I do chapters, because I want to ask Bander 2 questions. Because Bander, I sent you some YouTube videos today, and we've heard the argument from them Second Amendment motherfuckers. And listen, I don't trust y'all. I don't trust the fucking government. I don't think anybody on this call trusts the fucking government as far as we could throw Ken. Okay, I don't think anybody does. But let's be really fucking for real. Do you think that the Second Amendment boys can take on the government if some shit actually went down?
Oh, so we're actually going to entertain this?
Let's entertain this. Like, you are a veteran, you served. If there's anybody on this call that can speak to the might of the U.S. military, it is you. You've been in there. So what, like, if they finally said, you know what, fuck this whole country, we coming in and we taking it, are Second Amendment boys right in saying that they're having that gun is what's going to deter it? Because they bring up all kind of things. They bring up Afghanistan, they bring up Iraq, they bring up Vietnam, they bring up the fact that Russia couldn't invade, and their reasoning for that is because those countries had guns. So what do you, as a veteran, say to that point?
First off, I'm trying not to laugh hysterically. I'm gonna just put that out there. Yeah. Honestly, I'm trying to.
Laughter is a suitable answer.
All right, let me put it like this. These are untrained wannabe soldiers, at best weekend warriors, right? When you go to basic training, the first 90 days before you even get to schooling for your job is they teach you how to be, technically it used to be like 2 months, now it's like a month and a half or whatever, but it's literally teaching you how to be a soldier and doing their damnedest to disconnect you from the morality of, because humans are very averse to killing each other. And you have to actually train that out of soldiers. So, you may get your Joe, Bob, Billy, Second Amendment, whoever with the cute red hat on bullshit. And as soon as they see a soldier, they're going to pick up their AR-15 and shoot, right? And they've been practicing it in their back 40, whatever, shooting mounds and beer cans and whatever. That's great. You haven't actually practiced against an active target.
Right.
It's not like on television where you're just going to see the soldiers in their riot gear just walking forward while you're taking pot shots at them. No. First off, the reason that they're getting rid of the M16A2 assault rifle and the AR-15s is because the plating in protective shields it nullifies everything. Because you shoot the plate because they're not going to be aiming, and you really haven't done anything. And those plates are like 4 inches thick. They're designed to stop the bullets from.
Is that what the Army's wearing? They're wearing those plates?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
The reason why they are actually getting rid of it is because Russian and Chinese soldiers are wearing the plate where in their body armor that nullifies the bullets from your M16A2 assault rifle and your AR-15.
Got it.
So,
it.
you know, that's a thing.
Right.
Plus, in all honesty, they're probably like, if their martial law was actually going to be a thing, they would be the first ones rounded up. Not at home. They would literally, psyops would be like, yeah, I need you to go pick up this. These guys here, all of these guys on this list.
And they know where you are because you keep posting a picture of you and your gun on Facebook and Instagram, by the way. They're not going to have a hard time finding you.
I mean, so you remember when Obama was president and everybody lost their whole shit because they were quote unquote actively spying on American citizens? They never stopped that. They just admitted to it.
Exactly.
So literally, that's why I always joke, I'm on a watch list. I know I'm on a watch list because they have my fingerprints.
I got mine too.
So
basically, it's not realistic for them to think that they could take on a trained military force.
First off, they couldn't take on a trained military force because your trained military force, i.e. the United States Army, has unlimited weapons and unlimited ammo. So really, all they have to do is siege your place of resistance, shoot in every couple of hours some smoke grenades, a couple flashbangs. Eventually, you have to sleep.
So scary.
Yeah. I mean,
what are the?
Yeah.
And we're all aware of it. We're all aware of it.
It's a concern, but listen, if they really wanted to do some shit, there's not a whole lot realistically we are going to be able to do. Like, that's just it.
That's right.
Everybody's like, oh, well, America's never fought a war on American soil. You're right. They haven't. However, that doesn't mean that they haven't fought wars. And everybody's like, oh, well, they're sending all the good soldiers to Afghanistan. Not all of them. And they all don't stay over there. So, all of those guys who think that they're going to just solo cowboy it when the shit hits the fan on their remote Montana wooded acreage. No, because they don't even have to find you. They literally could just send a drone over your shit and just drop a small parcel on your house. The unlimited ammo for one and snipers. The U.S. Army actually does have snipers, and that's just one branch of the Army.
Right.
Because honestly, if you were as important as you think you are with your the shit hits the fan prepper bullshit, they would send the SEALs after you. So it's not like, one, there's not enough of them.
There's not enough of them. Yeah, please go on. Go ahead. One, there's not enough of them.
There's not enough of them. They don't have enough ammo or, whatever. Sure, everybody's like, oh, well, we'll live on my plot of land and we'll live off the land and all this. Okay. So what do you do because at this point, if the U.S. government is attacking its own citizens, they're going to be poisoning water mains. They're going to be doing all this other stuff. You're not going to make it.
Actual tactics, cutting off food supplies, routes, things that armies do when they attack other countries.
Exactly.
So what, let's entertain this fantasy land a little bit more here. What actually would have to happen for these people to even have a shot?
First, they would probably have to survive a nuclear attack because the entire country would, the actual infrastructure for the U.S. government and, would have to be completely gone.
Right.
And then they would have to survive essentially the first 3 years unnoticed by the people who survived the nuclear attack that destroyed all of the major cities and, all the survivors who are now, thinking that they're Mad Maxing it, just throwing bullets down lane like it's nobody's fucking business because who's going to arrest me for it? Ha 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 ha. Right. That's when you get warlords.
Right. So this country
Everybody,
looks completely different.
yeah. Okay, let me put it like this. Everybody has their zombie plan, whether they call it a zombie plan or not.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who has a zombie plan has one major mistake, one flaw in their zombie plan that they never think about.
Mm-hmm.
Who says you're going to live past getting, the first initial whatever?
Right. Right.
And it does. A zombie plan is just synonymous for they actually use it in the military. Always have a zombie plan because you can substitute zombies for chemical attack and actual invasion, yada yada yada, and it's all essentially have your shit ready.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, so few of us are in shape, train, can carry around a 50-pound bag or run up a hill with, the weight of guns and ammo and all the other shit that you're going to need. Like, just, we don't trust the government either, but let's just be really real about what would actually happen.
What would
and if you can't be realistic about that, then I also don't think you should have a fucking gun.
No, I'm saying, realistically, these are the type of people who within the first 6 months will have shot their neighbors, themselves, until they have no fucking bullets.
Right.
Because, first they're going to be all giddy and excited and shooting in the air and being all foolish, wasting ammo, not thinking about it. Because these are not the type of people who generally make their own ammo. Or if they do, they don't make it well.
Thank you.
I mean,
thank you for providing clarity. Babe, you unmuted. What's good?
What Banner said actually triggered a memory of mine because we have a family friend that's a hardcore doomsday prepper. He even has a hidden room in his house that you have to access through some other crazy thing. Like, yes, he has the whole shebang. He is that stereotype. I'm not even kidding. But when he and my dad were talking, he literally said that if an apocalypse were to happen, the first thing he's doing is going 2 houses down and shooting his neighbor. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think he should have a gun.
Yeah, and he has many. He has 5 gun safes.
I don't think he should have any guns.
At the time that I remember this, he had 5 gun safes. I don't know how many he has now. This was years ago.
This is why I'm like, the first thing everybody's going to do is they're going to take out, if they can, their petty little grievances and waste their bullets shooting their neighbor 2 houses down, and then just being excited because they actually got to do it and nobody's going to come get them. So they're going to put a couple more bullets in them because, woo, it's freedom for real. And,
right.
instead of, and this is also why when everybody's like, oh, because I would love to be a doomsday prepper, but I would not be a stationary one. This is why everybody knows I'm obsessed with boats. But yeah, because doomsday preppers, they have already started preparing, squirreling stuff away, yada yada yada. What if you're out going hunting? Somebody's been watching your house for the last 3 months because they see the smoke. You don't look hungry. So it is essentially, while you're over here living your best prepper life, somebody's over there watching you.
Just waiting to take it.
Exactly.
Man, what does masculinity look like for you? I think you were just
that's a weird question. I don't know. Masculinity, honestly, to me, kind of looks like femininity in the way it shouldn't be defined by the social constructs and, of an older generation. Like, random tidbit. My dad loves the color pink. He will never, ever tell anybody he loves the color pink because he's a boomer. Literally. And he tells me, and every time he tells me, he's like, and you got to promise not to tell anybody because I love pink and I don't want people to think. And I'm like, well, think what? That you like pink? Yeah, well, that's a girl's color. 100 years ago, it was a boy's color. And cute little girls wore blue. And little boys wore pink because it was more masculine and closer to red. So go figure. But, I'm just like everybody else has said, just be a decent human. It's not hard. Whatever steps you take as a man, I think that self-awareness is a hell of a drug, I swear. The first steps in being what is masculine, what is feminine, whatever, is literally just be a good human.
Yes.
If you are, unless you are trying to get in said person's pants, it doesn't matter what their business is, unless you're interested in their business. Just be a good person.
Right. What does gun control in this country look like to you?
In my perfect country?
Yes.
Probably Denmark.
Okay. Educate people, because those who don't know.
Okay, so in Denmark, you can have guns. You can have, I'm not sure if they have the assault rifle option, but in Denmark, you register your gun at the nearest police station to your house. Your gun stays at the police station. You decide you want to go to the range or go hunting. You go to the police station. You sign out your gun. If you are going to the range, you go to the range. You sign your gun in at the range. You shoot. You take your gun. You sign it out of the range. Go back to the police station. Turn it back in. Everybody, the number one thing about the whole, I need a gun in my house. I have an AR-15. It's literally preying on fear and the inadequacy that has been programmed into men to think that they have to be able to do everything by themselves. It's literally gun control. We want you to not shoot children, but how am I going to protect my house? A security system, a dog, a fence, thicker walls.
Right.
Yes. But what if the home invasions don't happen as often as you think? You stop watching the news. We have a problem with the obsession with hero types and guns and hella guns and the last man standing complex. Everybody thinks that they're going to be that last man with that last bullet taking on the big bad guy, and he's going to be doing his soliloquy, and then you're going to wait for him to finish, and then you're going to shoot him, and woo, you win. And it don't work like that.
Play some fucking D&D.
Not everybody needs to play D&D, yes. But also talk to people, talk to family members of victims of gun violence. My younger brother is dead because some woman decided that she wanted to drive from Arizona around the country, pulling up and doing the natural born killer shit. My brother was robbed half a block from my aunt's house, who he was going to go visit, and shot and killed for $150 he had in his back pocket. The irony is he had $7,000 in his shoe.
I'm sorry you went through that. That's fucking yeah.
This is why I'm always like the fear of going to prison is less and less scary to me now.
I hear you. Things get crazier. We're just like,
prison don't sound so bad.
Them intrusive thoughts looking pretty good today. Stop watching the news. Alex, I'm gonna let you go last. Tarrah, what's up?
Yeah.
Hi. No, Tarrah's still awake. Tarrah's still here. Tarrah, weigh in on all this. What does masculinity look like to you? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's important that when we're talking about masculinity and how it's viewed in the United States, it's based off of a Christian European viewpoint, because those are the people that came here and established society as it is. And so those values are what have colored how we view gender. And there have been many, many different cultures across the globe that have had different views on gender. There are some societies where they have like 6 different genders or whatever. And it's only like the US is just always behind with shit. So I mean, it's something that I've thought about for years. I never really ascribed to, oh, you know, this is what it means to be a man. I never understood. I knew from an intellectual standpoint what people were saying. This is what boys do. Boys play with blocks, and boys play with race cars, and boys do this, and girls play with dolls. You know, I understood what those gender roles were intellectually, but I never understood why people just accepted it as if it were okay, or as if it were, you know, like, I don't know. I just never really understood people's just acquiescence to it. So for me, I mean, it's always been, you know, I don't care what anybody's gender is. It's what kind of person do you want to be? So when I speak to my nieces and nephews, I always made it a point, oh, you're supposed to be a boy. This is what this is. I've never spoken to them like that. I would always ask them, you know, what kind of person do you want to be? And decide that for yourself. I never put gender into it because it doesn't matter. Gender is, when we are born in this society, depending on what kind of genitalia you have, then you're ascribed a certain gender based on, you know, what I mentioned before. But, you know, it doesn't mean shit. Like it doesn't mean shit. It's, you know, what kind of person is it that you want to be? That's what it is. I don't know. That's all I got.
No, it's a good thought. How do you think we can even take a step to unravel like masculinity from golden culture? And that's, you know, and like, you know, you got to be a man and have this big gun.
Well, I think, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
What were you going to say?
I forgot now. Thanks.
The ADHD is real.
Yeah.
It comes and it goes.
So, I mean, there are people that, I mean, there are gender studies classes. That's one of the classes that people are trying. They've been doing it for years. It's not within the, like, when I say years, I mean literally like probably a couple decades. They've been trying to get rid of gender studies classes because it's quote unquote too progressive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, honestly, people have to be willing to even just broach the conversation, regardless of whether or not they are open to doing the internal work it's going to take to deconstruct all of the shit that people have learned, you know, that they've learned over the years and how they're supposed to behave based on whatever gender they were ascribed. Regardless of that, you have to be willing to even sit down and listen. And that is something that is that's difficult for a lot of people because a lot of people are stubborn. And one thing too, I know Delvin had mentioned before that he was glad that a lot of kids now, you know, they're more open, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The reason why kids now are more open is because of the very difficult work that's been done for decades or probably even longer. Because it wouldn't have been possible if somebody a long time ago didn't tell the next person it's okay to be yourself and then to have that continue on. Right. So, so basically, yeah, you just have to be willing to have that conversation. You have to be willing to explore these topics, and you have to be willing to let yourself go in order to discover who you are, because it's just it's a deep. Some people might say it's not a spiritual experience, but to me, it actually is, because you have all of these things that you're being told. You have a uterus, so this is what your role in society is, and you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, you're supposed to look this way, you're supposed to, be presentable, and this, and that, and the other. And you might realize one day, like, I don't know if I quite agree with that. And even just that one little question can open up so much for you, because you're recognizing that just because they told you something, it doesn't mean that it's applicable to you for who you are. And then you might start the process of, going out and exploring and learning. I wish I had some books off the top of my head that I could recommend to people.
If you remember them, let me know and I'll put them down in the show notes.
Yeah, I will do that. But yeah, definitely being open to deconstructing these ideas and figuring out the thoughts that you're having. Are they your own thoughts, or are you just regurgitating the thoughts and ideas that somebody told you that you need to have?
100%. Tarrah, what does gun control look like in Tarrah's world?
The complete nuclear disarmament.
I like that you immediately went there. You're like, no, we're gonna go big as shit. We're getting rid of all that. I love it.
Well, I mean, because gun control, the discussion has been focused specifically on what's happening in the U.S., but it's all connected. Like with currently with Haiti, and this is something that's been going on for quite a while. The country has been, or on the mainstream media, they've been saying, oh, there's gangs in Haiti, there's this happening in Haiti, they might need some help. And that's immediately, it should tell you immediately that they're trying to soften the public to an occupation in Haiti. But on those videos that they're showing, and all these news articles that's being written about Haiti, I've never seen any where they're actually talking to the people in Haiti about what's actually happening. And what's been happening is there are certain there are people for hire there, and guess who's hiring them? Guess who's supplying the guns to them, right? So when we're talking about how, where are people getting guns here in the U.S., it's the same thing. Like in some areas, guns are being flooded in. When Obama was in office, there was an operation he did called Operation Fast and Furious, where he supposedly, it was to be able to track the cartels, right? And what they did was they gave them guns. Why would you do that? And it makes you think, when we're talking about, where are these people in the U.S. getting all these guns from? In some places, we could ask the question, what happened to people in the 80s? Where did they get the crack from? Where did it come from, right? So absolutely complete nuclear disarmament, because there's no need. We do not need nuclear weapons. Nobody needs that. Absolutely nobody on this earth needs nuclear weapons, period. Like, just completely get rid of those. But specifically here, I do not know a whole lot about gun laws, but I would say if we're going to get rid of AR-15s and all that, then we need to defund the police and take those, like, especially in with their tanks that they're getting, because there are certain cities that are where the police are being militarized. They literally are having tanks rolling around in people's neighborhoods, and I give you one guess as to whose neighborhoods they're having tanks rolling around in. So get rid of those tanks. We're gonna, because if we can't have AR-15s and the police don't need AR-15s, because why do you need AR-15s patrolling the city? It's absolutely unnecessary. And I was thinking earlier, similar to what Vander had said about, I don't know, I wouldn't trust a police station. I just don't trust the police. I would rather have like a community-led, and people might say, well, that's the same thing as the police. No, the police, they're like an arm of the state. I would rather have like a community-led organizations where their guns are housed there. And I think in Vietnam, they actually do something similar where everybody learns how to handle a gun over there. And then they have their armory and they train, they do whatever. Then they put the guns away. And then once it's time to train again, then they go get their guns or whatever. So,
I mean, to be fair, part of the problem is that the United States has a volunteer-only military. The majority of every other country on Earth has mandatory service for a minimum of 2 years. So, because let's face it, most of these dudes want to be G.I. Joe, want to be, I got kicked out of the psyche valve for being a cop sort of situations,
Now they want to think that they're going to live out their best fantasy.
But if they had just... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, they want to live out their best, I was G.I. Joe, when 9 times out of 10, most of these guys wouldn't even make it to the E4 Mafia. I made it twice.
Good job, Ben. Good job.
But
good job.
No, like they wouldn't make it out of being a basic bitch private their entire career. And it's those guys, and it's the ones who would think that they'd be hot shit cops. That we need to bring in, but as soon as you talk about mandatory military service, everybody's like, "Oh God, the draft! Don't talk. If you have a vagina, don't talk about the draft because you'll never get drafted." And I'm like, in these days and times, yeah, they'll fix that to where everybody gets drafted, and I'm all for that.
But it's like, you think you badass? Go ahead, go to basic training.
Go AIT, watch your fucking drill sergeant slap the shit out you with a hat.
What else, Tarrah? Is that the end of your list, or is there more?
As far as, I mean, I just don't know. I just know absolutely complete nuclear disarmament, and we definitely would have to reduce the weaponry that the police have. Absolutely 100%. And then also we would take resources, because I think in New York City police, they literally spend billions of dollars on their police department, and they spend more money for the New York City police than some countries spend for their entire military for the entire country.
That is true.
It's really ridiculous. And so when we have people that are on the street starving to death, when we have kids where in Maryland, where kids were having to wear their winter coats inside because their heat was not working because the school doesn't have funding. I know in Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, she it's like Rahm Emanuel, but she approved cuts for the school to pit towards police, something with the police. And then we have now in Atlanta, the city of Atlanta is trying to cut down a forest in Atlanta to make space for a police training facility, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when we're talking about gun control, we really need to think about this image of all of this violence, because it is violence. You know, when you have a military like force set in your city, you know, just like in that article, it causes stress. You know, it causes so much, just so much lived trauma, and we need to cut that out. But we also need to, we need individuals to be more, we need people to be more, not just more open, but more aggressive in dismantling these racist ideologies within the different systems that we have, because that's also a big problem. I know at least 2 of the shooters that went out, like one of them that was at the church, at a church, they had Hitler sayings. I think they had it written on their actual gun. I know definitely they had it in their manifesto, but I think they also had it written on their gun. So, you know, these racist ideologies, that's fueling a lot of these mass shootings as well. We need people to be more stringent with that. That includes social media, just the media in general, like the mainstream media. Instead of trying to tiptoe around the issue, they need to really just call it what it is. But again, if you do that, that's going to disrupt and disturb certain groups of people, and then that's going to cut into their profit margin. So they would rather not say anything about it, because they would rather make more money, because money is more important than people's lives. So anyway, so there's a lot, but that's just a little bit.
It's such a big fucking issue, but I like your ideas too. I think we're
I'm over
really
here.
solving. I think we're solving the problem here. So, Alex, I want to end with you tonight because you are the educator. But before, I want to say that for me, you know, I can tell you that if you need a weapon to define your gender, you need to go to therapy and you need to put the weapon down. I will say that if you need some sort of ideology to define you, let me put it, if you need some sort of religious ideology to define who you are as a person, you need to really sit with yourself and figure out who you are outside of that ideology. And if there's restrictions were not placed on you, would you still be that person? Because a lot of people bring in God, and I always ask which one, because that plays a part in this as well. You know, and I could just say personally, because I love what everybody else said about masculinity and what it is and what it isn't. But I just think about now about how wonderful it is that we have trans people teaching us and teaching us about gender and making us question like what that is for us. Because like I know me, like I don't want children, so I can't define myself as a woman by the fact that I could have them, because I actually can't anymore, and I don't want them. You know, some women, you know, define women, you know, have more testosterone than men do. Some of these athletes out here, and you know, how do we? So, I mean, me personally, if I sat down, I thought about it. I'm like, why do I know I'm a girl? I just feel like one, and that's all it is. And it is not any deeper than that. I just feel like one. I'm like, could I be a they? No, I don't feel like a they. I don't feel like a man. I just feel like a she. Like that feels good to me, and that's all it is. It's not, I don't look to anything else to define what's happening. I mean, Bander hilariously tells me and Pixel that we the worst lesbians ever because we don't fit none of those stereotypes. We can't fix shit.
They can't.
I know we
Hilarious.
argue about who's killing the. I mean, Babel killed a cockroach for me, but I don't like bugs. But I like football. Like, you know, but I can't
I
fix
have
a
to go
car.
outside and deal with animal life because she won't do it.
Right, I won't do it, but I, you know, none of that. But I mean, if I lived in a perfect society, you know, where I didn't have to worry about stuff, like I want to learn how to be a ninja and have a sword and, you know, do all that man shit just because I think it's fun. But, you know, like I don't, so there's no box that I fit in when it comes to gender. There's not. When we talk about gun control, I think it's ridiculous that we are letting children die and I don't even have them. It is absolutely fucking ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous that you are a parent and you can literally look at your kids and then look at your gun and think that you having that is more important than them. That is blowing my mind.
These are also the same people who are like, oh, why don't you just adopt?
Right. If you are that person, put your gun away and go to therapy and really sit with yourself about why that piece of whatever the fuck it's made out of is more important than the life of your child. Because that is what that's literally the heart of this issue. In my perfect world of gun control, there's a couple of things that happen before we even talk about that. And the first podcast, the first episode part you did on this, Delvin, I thought Jason really hit the nail on the head. We get money out of politics. We talk about term limits. We update the fucking Constitution because it's 2023. Holy fucking shit. Even Thomas Jefferson said that this bitch should be updated. So let's stop quoting the founding fathers if we're not actually going to follow their advice. Okay, let's update this bitch. Let's give everybody health care. Let's give everybody a universal basic income. And let's watch by term limits. Let's do that too. And then let's watch all the trickle down, the actual trickle down effect of that, reduce some of these other issues. And then when it comes to like owning
and
a
house
gun,
everyone.
Oh my God, yes. And housing, yes. If we were to solve some of those basic societal problems, and I say they're basic because it's ridiculous that we can't we don't take steps to solve them. Then let's talk about, okay, you want to own a gun. Let's talk about the process. I think for one, the first thing you should do is you should learn how to fight. I think you should learn how to actually fight for like 6 months and talk to a therapist about why you actually want this weapon. And maybe you just want to fucking go hunting. Maybe you're just like, I just want to like go in my backyard and I mean, do you need a gun to do that? Can't you do that with a BB gun? But I feel like, one, learn how to fight. Learn how easy it is for somebody to take a gun away from you if you're not trained in anything. Like literally in anything. Learn how easy it is for someone to just take that. So 9 times out of 10, you're bringing a gun to a fight for somebody else. So learn that. Talk to a therapist first. And then if you really want a gun, I think you need to train with it for like a year before you get to be able to bring it home. I think you really have to go through some serious fucking training to own a weapon. And that training maybe is longer depending on what type of weapon you want to bring home.
It's harder to adopt a child.
Right. That's what I mean. Like there has to be, because like it should be really hard to get a weapon. And I feel like all these other things need to be done before you just get to bring one home. And I absolutely agree with Tarrah. Like we defunding these police too, like because they're not. And when it comes to police, 4-year degree, none of this 12-week shit, and then you get a fucking gun. Fuck that. 4-year degree.
4-year criminal justice degree.
Minimum. That's minimum. And we need more community policing and less state policing. So if Crystal runs the world, I'm making all that shit happen. And you right, we getting rid of them nuclear weapons too, because y'all crazy. Y'all little boys and your fucking toys. Just stop it. But anyway, that's how I'm solving this shit. Alex,
yeah,
educate us, please.
Wait, what was the question? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no, we're just
I'm kidding. I'm
Do
gonna
you
answer
like Twizzlers?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I'm gonna answer the second question first.
Sure.
Man, fuck these guns. I've just made up, after all this, after Delvin's podcast, after what we've just recorded, I'm going to answer like an artist. Fuck these guns. Get rid of all. I just wish there were no guns. I would melt all the metal down. I would create statues for every city around the entire planet of the mitochondrial Eve and an explanation of who she is, and erect a statue of her around the entire world with all the metal melted down for these guns. Fuck guns. Moving on. Masculinity. And if you don't know who the mitochondrial Eve is, I suggest everyone look up who that is. As far as masculinity, I'm going 2 places with this. When I was 3, I was sitting with my legs crossed, and a family member came up to me and uncrossed my legs and said, "Boys don't sit like that."
Oh my God.
Fast forward. When I was 9, there were workers. There was a worker. There was only one. I'm a latchkey kid. Hi, Gen X. And I was home alone, and there was someone who was building our pool who knocked on the door and asked for water. And that's the first time I can remember a grown adult man looking at me sexually. Fast forward my adolescence. I was kind of an angry kid because I was stuck inside a character where I couldn't be who I wanted to be. And I, in my house and outside my house, was being told that homosexuality was wrong. And that if at that time, given the tail end of the AIDS epidemic, that if one of the things that has cemented in my brain was being told that if I was gay, I'd probably die of AIDS. Fast forward, I'm about 13. I meet two women. Well, not women at the time. Someone named Tarrah. I'm going to get emotional. Hold on. Someone named Tarrah and someone named Sarah. And with Tarrah and Sarah came Jennifer and Jackie and Irene and Vicky. And where I was trying to fit in to the masculine stereotypes, where the boys didn't accept me, they said, come over here. We love you for who you are. Even though I wasn't out and figuring my own sexuality out. To this day, we're all still friends. So I've always respected, I don't really care about the lines between masculine and feminine because I live in both. I honor both. I like both. I like both sides of myself. But it was strong female energy that protected me from the outside world and kept me safe. Adulthood came. I figured out who I was. Fast forward, I have Katie. I have Crystal. I have Pix. I have Tarrah. I still have the other females from my life, and they have kept me safe and sane and creative and masculine and feminine. And I honor that. And for me, I'm doing quotes for those who can't see me. For me, being a man, I wake up every day. When I was 15, I stole my parents' car. We were on vacation to take my friend Sarah to auditions for a musical. And I walked in, and a woman, Pat DeFerrari, walked up to me. Can you sing? Can you dance? I'm like, I've never come over here. And it took my life on a course. I was welcomed into the arts, a place where I was accepted. I could be athletic and creative at the same time. And I've made it my mission ever since to I can only take care of my little corner of this blue marble. And I wake up and I've dedicated my life to bettering my community, bettering the arts, helping the people in my life who are my chosen family to do whatever I can to better their lives. I protect them as much as I can. I'm curious about them. I encourage them. I learn from them. I bond with them. I go through life, both good and bad, with them. And I feel like that makes me a very powerful man, because I find power in all of you, basically. And then I just kind of jump on the wagon and say, I'm coming along for the ride, good or bad, I got your back, and we're going to figure this out together. And let's just keep our little corner of the sky as happy as we can. And in my opinion, that's manhood and that's humanhood. I don't care about being a man or a woman. I don't see a dress as man or woman, or female or male. I don't see high heels as man or woman. I don't see cargo shorts as, male or female. It's colors are colors. Art is the universal language. It transcends gender. It transcends sexuality. It saves, basically. And so I Sometimes I'm very good at doing it. Sometimes I struggle a little bit, given the day and my ADHD. But I've just, I know people are probably tired of me harping on the lesson that Legacy gave the community, but I'm not a sci-fi Star Wars fanatic. I always say I'm nerd adjacent. I'm not cool enough to be a nerd. But what I did see was a documented example that will go beyond us of what it's like when people from all walks of life from around the planet have one common goal and show up daily to achieve it without ego, without hate, with pure dedication, and honestly love. I grew to love a lot of people that I didn't know before the project started. And I just think in the greater sense, greater reaching further outside of that, it's a great example, and it's proven fact that that recipe works. It works. It works. Delvin and I became friends through Legacy. Same with Tarrah. And Delvin and I had a lot of conversations about fatherhood. The show affected us in those terms. Masculinity, I found top themes in that with myself. And we were having a conversation one time, and Delv out of nowhere said, "All right, man, love you." And I paused because I felt the same I feel love for him, but it's not something I'm used to hearing from straight men. It's not like he just said it out of nowhere. And I was like, it carried me through the next day. And I was like, that's really cool that he felt so comfortable with me to say that to me. And I don't have a problem telling anybody I love them. I come from a place of love. And I think we all should do that. And another thing about, again, quotes, being a man is knowing when to humble yourself and realize that you don't always get it right. And with that, I want to apologize to you all who are my family. You're my sisters. And if I somehow lacked in speaking up in the moment for you, I really didn't feel any anger towards the person in Delvin's podcast. I was having a conversation with myself and trying to be respectful of his platform. It would have been different had it been like, for example, Crystal's platform. I would have been a little bit different because I'm more familiar. So I apologize if I didn't stand up in a way that I should have. It's a lesson learned that no matter how outspoken I am, no matter how I've been fighting for rights since I was 19 years old for the LGBTQ community, and I'm still learning. And I humble myself, and I was in shock a little bit at what I was hearing and processing it. I tried to speak up. There were times where I didn't know if it was my place because it seemed like a Black issue, and there were two Black men in the room. And so I was not sure whether it was I feel like it's always my place to defend my brother. Delvin is someone I love and respect. It's always my place to defend him. But there were two Black men in the room, and I was coin tossing in my mind. Do I speak up? Have I spoken up too much? It was a little confusing, which is why I'm glad we've done this within our family. So again, this is about humbling myself and respecting. I have the utmost respect for all of you. I learn from you every single day. I'm honored to know all of you. Tarrah, not so much Bander. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Bander. Tarrah, same. No, you're who I'm looking for when the water wars start. Trust me. Tarrah, you have changed me as a man, as a person. I've been changed knowing you, all of you. And like I said, all I can do is better, is learn and better myself. And I don't know, I think that's maybe what being a good human, man, woman is. So I'll leave it with this. One of my favorite artists, Janelle Monáe, her song Crazy Classic Life. And I want this to apply to all of us and beyond me. We are not America's nightmare. We are the American dream. And I'll leave it at that.
I love everything about that. This has been a very long conversation. It's going to be a fucking hilarious bitch for me to edit this, and I can't wait. I'm gonna make Delvin help me. So I know he's always there. I want to thank everyone for lending us their time tonight, and their viewpoints. We are not always going to get it right. We're just not. And I know that we live in this age where, I mean, listen, back in the day, we didn't have to worry so much about getting it wrong, because if we didn't, it wouldn't go viral. Like now, I mean, we worry about the things that we're going to say and this, that, and the other. But I mean, we're human. We're not always going to get it right. And I think it's important for us to have these conversations and to be open and honest about that. And when it comes to gun violence and gun control in America, and God, all the other issues that we have to tackle, we need to come at these with honesty. And I think the biggest thing here is that our love for each other has got to be greater than our fear. It has to be. It absolutely has to be. We need to be angry, we need to be loud, we need to push back against things, but ultimately this has to come from a place of, we just want to live in a world that is safe for us, do our things, go about our daily lives, and not have to worry about our kids in school or our kids in the street or our kids at home, because an adult has made a choice to have something because they are afraid for reasons that they are not ready to deal with. If we are going to improve anything, we have to be able to sit with ourselves in reflection and honesty. And I know how hard that is. I think everybody on this panel has come from, maybe not everybody, but I mean, Hannah, Bander, God, Alex, Delvin, myself, we have all been put in boxes that we have had to pull ourselves out of. Tarrah, all of us. So you are not alone in that. You are not alone in, man, I spent 30 years of my fucking life believing one thing and now you're telling me it's not true. Yeah, that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. And that moment sucks, but you need to be able to sit with that, because people are dying for stupid reasons. Really stupid fucking reasons people are dying, and we could fix it. So let's have open and honest conversations about how to do that and be less motivated by our fear of that and more motivated of, why are we letting this happen? How can we stop it? What does that look like? What does gun control in America look like to you? What does a perfect world look like for you? And why aren't you fighting for it? Don't tell me you're tired. We all are. All right. That's it. Till next time, y'all. We're done.